Jellystone. Uh, yeah, I wanted to talk about this show because it finally wrapped up its last season, and I'm sad to see it go. And it's a really good show, but also what's getting in the headlines is not actually the show itself, the fact that this show had a Cartoon Network crossover. So I want to talk about the show first, then we'll talk about the cartoon crossover towards the end of this video. I really enjoy this show. I do have some criticisms of it. This was a show that when Max started talking about their animated shows, that out of all the ones being announced, even close enough, this was the one I was most excited about. And I'm surprised this lasted the longest on the service because it feels like no one talks about this show. But essentially, what this show is that made me so excited was it's a giant Hanna-Barbera crossover with all these characters living in a town together, and it's created by C.H. Greenblatt. Now, if you don't know C.H. Greenblatt, he worked on a lot of Cartoon Network shows. He also worked on some SpongeBob and other Nickelodeon shows and stuff like that. And he's a big deal in the animation world. And he created Chowder, and so this was a big deal for him to create this show. And so I was very, and all those shows that he worked on I love, so I just went ahead and I checked this show out. And I think it's awkward as a show because I do like this show quite a bit, but it is like, if you're a Hanna-Barbera fan like me, what is even going on with some of these characters? Like, it felt like some of these characters were updated in the right way. Like, they took Cindy Bear, which, if you don't know, is a character from the first ever theatrically released animated movie based on a show in theaters. The Yogi Bear movie that came out in the, I think, 60s or 70s. But it was a big deal, right? For that movie and to have that back in the day, but now that character's kind of fall into irrelevancy. So what they do is they make the character entirely something different. That's fine. I think characters like that, but then you have characters like Jabberjaw or like some of these other characters that they do fun twists with, but some of them just like Jabberjaw's a woman, which I don't really mind, but like that's so far removed from what I know as those characters. I don't necessarily dislike it, but it does mean like if you're a Hanna-Barbera fan watching this show, I don't really know what you're going to get out of it. I have fun with it being a Hanna-Barbera fan, but that's because I'm open to the changes. But I feel like if you are really someone who grew up with that, it's like, okay. So it really just felt like C.H. Greenblatt grew up with all these Hanna-Barbera characters and just said, I want to make the show I want to make with using those characters. And that's what he did. And it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of great humor. I consistently laugh throughout quite a bit of the show. The characters are so wacky and bizarre. Yogi Bear's a doctor, which is weird, but like at the end of the day, I don't really care. All this stuff is just really fun. I had a great time. And I think it's worth checking out. It is a really fun show. Just be warned, if you are a Hanna-Barbera show, you're fan, like you're gonna kind of be a little turned off by some of the changes, even though I think a lot of them are for the best. Some of them are awkward, like what they did with Jabberjaw. But this is the big thing that people have been talking about is the Cartoon Network crossover episode, which this is a double length episode, but it's still only 22 minutes, which is crazy. And this is a bigger Cartoon Network crossover than Crossover Nexus, which would have been the last one. Now, we did learn from the creator of OKKKO that essentially there's a reason for that. Like, they have rights issues when they make crossovers like that, but now Warner Brothers Animation and Cartoon Network Animation all being under the same umbrella, they can freely do these crossovers and really make them work. And I will say, I was kind of nervous about this being a 22-minute crossover because it did feel like, okay, well, these characters aren't all going to get their time to shine. But I felt like they really did. Of course, a lot of these characters just show up as background characters, but I felt like the characters that actually were important to the story of the crossover really worked. Essentially, Dee Dee shows up in Jellystone, Billy shows up in Jellystone, and Mojo Jojo shows up in Jellystone. and they have to help save the universe, and there's all that fun stuff. And the way that crossover really works, it's just so funny. A lot of great gags. I love the one that ends the episode, which is the one that essentially saying Cartoon Network is dead, and a lot of the humor just really really worked. Thought it was very funny. Uh, and I thought it just was a really fun crossover episode that really used all the characters really well. I mean, again, some of them were just background fucking characters, but really, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It worked. I thought it was really nice. Let me know your thoughts, like, share, and subscribe.